Should you buy an all-band radio? What are the pros and cons? I've owned and still do own several radios, some of them HF only, some VHF, UHF, and some of them HF and VHF, UHF, and some in between. I'm not counting single band radios here. I've learned a few things and I'd like to share them with you. This video is about all band radios versus HF only radios or VHF, UHF only radios. And by HF only radios, I'm also including radios that have the 6-meter band in them. So what are these radios? The HF only radios would be like the ICOM 7300, ICOM 7610, and even older ICOMs like the IC 7056 series. The Yaesu has the FTDX10, FTDX101, and Elecraft has the K3S and the KX2 and the KX3. The radios that include VHF and above would be like the IC 746, IC 7000, FT991, and the TS2000 and the IC 705. I'll also include the Flex 6700 with an asterisk. And we aren't going to be tribalistic about this because everyone has their preference. So why would you buy an all-band radio that does VHF and UHF? In my experience, I found that I've done it because I want to save space on the operating desk, or particularly for a mobile setup that I don't want 3 radios in my car. The space savings is pertinent because often ham shacks are relegated to a small room like a spare bedroom, a basement, or even a corner of a living room or bedroom. For those that want to have a compact station, this is pretty much a choice. Another advantage includes using one set of speakers and microphones with the radio, so you don't have to go grabbing different mics or headsets to get on the radio. You just use one headset, headphones, or mic or key because Morse code is still popular, and you're off to the races. Yet another advantage is using one power supply. You don't have to buy additional power supplies or for additional radios. Another advantage often overlooked is the consistency of the user interface. This can improve your ergonomics at your ham station and bring less fatigue to operating. Now for the disadvantages. One common one that hams bring up is what happens in the event of a failure. If that one radio fails, you're basically off the air on all bands. And that is true. I don't know if that's big of a deal though, because if my HF radio failed, I would be unhappy anyway. But it's something to consider. Another one is that many times having all bands in a single radio means that the radio is somehow compromised. That I can agree. Some of the all band radios have had okay performance on HF, but bad performance on VHF, UHF, compared to a dedicated VHF, UHF radio. This is likely because the radio was designed first as an HF radio with VHF and UHF slapped in afterwards in the design process. What if you monitor FM repeaters? That could be an issue as well. When you are on HF, on many all-band radios, you can't monitor VHF and UHF FM at the same time. I mean, sometimes you can, but these radios generally don't have dual watch like a dedicated VHF, UHF radio has. Anyway, those are the pros and cons. Now on to some practical advice. Even in my car, I put a separate VHF, UHF, FM radio. I wanted to monitor the local repeaters when I'm on HF. That was the main driving factor. For home, I have a Flex 6700 as my main radio. The Flex is somewhat unique in that it includes the 2-meter band. However, the output is a very low level, only a few milliwatts. You have to add your own external RF amplifier. I've done this with an experimental unit, and others buy commercially made amplifiers from Down East Microwave, Baco, and others. If I want to operate other bands, I get what's called a transverter. What that does is basically convert frequencies so you can operate higher or lower bands with an HF or 2-meter radio. How it works is that it takes the output of the radio, mixes it in with another signal, and the sum of those frequencies is produced, amplified, and then output to the antenna. This often yields great results because HF radios are usually designed with good receivers, and you can realize the benefits of this, especially when working weak signals. There are some things to consider. One of them is frequency errors and stability. Generally, a radio with a crystal oscillator that is undisciplined will have a terrible time when used with a transverter. In some cases, it'll be so unstable that it will drift all over the place. The Flex does have an oven-controlled crystal oscillator, which means that the crystal for the master oscillator which determines frequency stability for the radio, is in an oven, which is used to stabilize temperature. In some radios, they use temperature compensated crystal oscillators, which are a bit worse. The way to solve this, of course, is to have a stable frequency reference. The most popular by far is GPS, which produces precise timing and frequency. So your radio has what you call a GPS disciplined oscillator, or GPS DO. Most GPS DOs operate on a frequency of 10 MHz and can be external to the radio or even internal, as Flex Radio has an option in its radios. But most people really only use this for weak signal work, single sideband, Morse code, CW, or digital modes. So the bottom line, if you're monitoring local repeaters, you'd be better off with a separate radio. Treat it like the bat phone. You have it in the corner of your shack and leave it on with squelch, and it will wake up when someone gets on. Another disadvantage is heat. A lot of these all-band radios, particularly the mobile ones, tend to suffer from heat issues because they cram so much into a small space. What about handhelds? Keep them for portable use unless they're your only radio. On that note, they should never be your only radio. What do you think? Sound off below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.